I think we're at the point where we're taxing the wrong things. I mean, we're taxing income and profit when, in fact, we ought to be taxing expenditure. I mean, you tax income, you reduce people's capacity to provide for themselves. Tax profit, you reduce the corporation's ability to employ people, because you can only employ people out of profit unless you print money. But if you tax expenditure, then you've got an option. You don't have to drive the Mercedes-Benz car. You can drive something else. Your wife doesn't have to wear jewellery.
Correct.
Go without jewellery. You see, in Britain, though, you've got an advantage over us. But are you taking advantage of it? You've got a 5-year election cycle. That should enable significant tax reform to articulate it and to prosecute it and to then see the benefits of it being implemented. Why isn't that happening?
It should, and I have to say 5 years. In practice, it usually turns out to be 4 years.
Yeah.
But whether it's 4 or 5 is a lot better than 3. I mean, it's not, as a guest in your country, it's not for me to criticise this
You're
place.
100% correct.
But 3 years is far too short. I mean, you barely get your feet under the table. But even if you've got a bit more time, here's the problem. You've got more time to do things, provided you don't start ripping yourself apart. You don't start enjoying fighting each other rather than fighting the enemy.
Yes.
And so often I think it's been happening in Australia. You know better than me.
Yes.
I see it with the Republicans in America. I see it with the Conservatives. They're knocking lumps out of each other. And they seem to enjoy knocking lumps out of each other. Now, that used to be what the left enjoyed. That's the left used to enjoy knocking lumps out of each other. Now it's the right that enjoys doing it. And if you do that, even 4 or 5 years isn't enough to make the necessary changes.
You made reference earlier to Boris Johnson. It's a mystery to many. How did Boris Johnson, an editor of The Spectator for 6 years, argue vehemently conservative values, yet become the opposite in government? Big spending, high tax. Why are these people captured by the left when they get there?
They're not just captured by the left, though that's an element of it. They're captured, I would say, by a metropolitan groupthink. And the kind of people they meet tend to believe in everything you've just outlined. The schools their kids go to with others of the metropolitan elite all think that as well. The dinner parties they go to, that is the consensus. And I think they rather like being liked. And they don't like their kids being attacked because their father's an evil, climate denier or whatever it is, happens to be the evil of the day. And I think, and Boris at the Grey, he used to work for me. I know Boris. I mean, I'm very fond of Boris in many ways. He's a brilliant person. The one thing you can be sure is he'll always let you down. And he often had this tendency to have the view of the last person he spoke to. Because he's ideologically promiscuous. He's promiscuous in other ways too, but we probably shouldn't go there. But he's ideologically promiscuous too. And without that kind of hard, settled view on things, you don't want to be ideological, you don't want to be rigid. But like Margaret Thatcher, like Ronald Reagan, you do need a kind of set of core beliefs by which you then judge. And of course, you have to be tactical as well as strategic. People forget that although Margaret Thatcher had that great seminal watershed victory over the coal miners, 2 years before she had retreated and allowed the coal miners to win because she didn't think she was ready. So you need to be agile, but you do need to have a set of core beliefs, and Boris really didn't have that set of beliefs.